Hello everyone, my name is Daniel. Welcome to my channel English Stories Guru. Why reading stories is important for improving your English. Today, we will learn an excellent way to improve English skills by reading story. You cannot underestimate the power of storytelling. Long and short stories can take you on adventures, teach you about other cultures, and introduce you to new vocabulary words. Not only does it make learning more enjoyable, it also helps you learn grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation without textbook-associated pressure. I hope you have lots of fun and improve English skills from this method, just like many other English learners have. Today I chose a lovely story to help you practice speaking English. So let's get started.
Marina had on a pretty white coat made of soft cashmere. She wore pretty earrings that made her look kind and charming. The shawl around her neck was really valuable, worth a lot of money. The salesperson approached her and said hello right away. "Mrs. Miller, is Mr. Miller not here today to choose pretty things with you?" "Hey, guess what? We have some brand new things that just arrived. Any of them would be perfect for you, Mrs. Miller. I have the special green gem you wanted me to save just for you. Give it a try later. I bet it would look great on your skin tone." The salesperson used Mrs. Miller a lot to make Marina feel special, even though she and Ethan weren't officially married yet. Marina smiled at Amelia, feeling proud of her win. Everyone knew that Ethan loved her very much, but they didn't know that Amelia was his wife. According to the law, Amelia squeezed her hands tightly. Why did she have to run into the person she really didn't want to see at the worst possible time? Marina gently remarked, "You might end up losing a bunch of money if you trade in such a nice ring." Amelia quickly grabbed the box with a determined look on her face. "I'm not selling it anymore," she said. "Not really? That's really unfortunate. I really love that ring. I was actually thinking of giving you more money for it, because we're friends. Did you need money quickly, Miss Rain?" Amelia's hand became rigid. Yes, she really needed money, and she needed it very badly. That's why Marina was being so mean to her all the time. The salesperson gave her some advice. "Excuse me. This is the person who is engaged to the president of the Miller Group. You're so lucky that she really liked your ring. She'll definitely give you a nice amount of money for it, and you won't have to wait for us to finish the paperwork before you get your cash." Amelia felt like the salesperson was making fun of her by constantly referring to her as Mrs. Miller. 1 year ago, she told Marina with a lot of confidence that she would never break up with Ethan and asked her to stop trying. In just 1 year, everyone, young and old, knew exactly who she was. Amelia started to believe that her marriage with Ethan was just a plan. Seeing that Ms. Rain was unsure, Marina grinned and suggested, "Why don't you tell me how much you want for it?" Amelia was really turned off by that person's arrogant look. She said in a mean way, "I'm not selling it anymore." But Marina just couldn't stop thinking about it. "Ms. Rain, you're in a tough spot. Don't try to convince me that you still think dignity is important. If I were in your shoes, I'd suggest selling it right away. Hasn't anyone ever told you that being stubborn isn't a good thing? That's really funny, Miss Carlton. Taking things from others has made you believe that you truly possess them. Why don't you go and take money from a bank? While they were arguing, the ring flew out of the box in a pretty curve and fell to the floor with a gentle sound.
Amelia quickly ran towards it, but the ring stopped next to a fancy pair of leather shoes near the door.
As Amelia reached down to grab it, a little drop of water fell on the back of her neck and gave her the shivers. She slowly looked up and saw a pair of eyes that seemed cold and without any feelings. Ethan was still holding an open umbrella, and little drops of water fell from it onto her head. He looked really good in his black wool coat. It made him look cool and fashionable. Amelia looked at him with a confused expression and remembered the first time she had seen him. Ethan, who was 20 years old, was wearing a white shirt while standing on the sunny field. It felt like he was standing in her heart. She couldn't forget that picture. It stayed in her head since she was 14. Now, she had on a cozy sweater that made her appear even thinner with its soft material. She had a pointy chin, and she seemed skinnier than she was 3 months ago. He looked really impressive and one of a kind, while she looked very sad and pitiful. Amelia's hand was just about to grab the ring when it suddenly froze in the air. As she was feeling confused, Ethan calmly lifted his foot and accidentally stepped on the ring as he walked by her. Amelia stayed down low. The ring was made just the way he liked it. The design of it wasn't too fancy, but it had its own special look. There was only one special ring like that in the entire world. Amelia always wears it, except when she's taking a shower. If she didn't really need money this time, she wouldn't have done such extreme things. But what she thought was a really special thing, he thought was just plain old junk. He didn't just step on the ring, but also the past that she cared about so much. Marina happily approached him and said, "Ethan, you're here. I was looking at jewelry when I noticed Miss Rain selling her ring." Ethan's face looked very serious, and he didn't show any feelings. He looked at Amelia with a very cold stare as she tried really hard to control her anger. He then said, "Do you want to sell that ring?" Amelia tried hard to hold back her tears and bit her lip to stop herself from crying. "Sure. Do you want to purchase it, Mr. Miller?" Ethan grinned playfully and said, "I remember you telling me how special that ring is to you. I can tell that you were really genuine. I don't care about anything that someone else doesn't care about." Just as Amelia was about to respond, she suddenly felt a really strong pain in her tummy. As the growth got bigger, the pain went from a little ache to a really strong pain. She saw the couple, who looked like a perfect match in their matching black and white coats under the bright lights. All of a sudden, she couldn't find the words to make herself understood. If someone's feelings change, they might not be bothered, even if she gave him her heart. Amelia tried really hard to ignore the hurt and grabbed the ring. Then she walked back to the counter to get the box and certificate. She didn't want to appear vulnerable in front of Ethan, even though it hurt a lot and could have made her faint. She kept walking steadily. As she walked by him, she calmly stated, "I used to think of it as something special, just like you did. But now, it's just a piece of metal that I can trade for money." Ethan sensed that something was not quite right with her. She was sweating on her forehead, and her face was very pale. She seemed like she was really trying hard to fight against some kind of discomfort. All of a sudden, he grabbed her arm and asked quietly, "What's the matter?" Amelia pulled her hand away and replied, "This doesn't concern you." She didn't even look at him again and tried really hard to keep her back straight as she went out of his view. Ethan saw her go. He was the one who allowed her to leave. But why does his heart still hurt? Amelia hurriedly went to a quiet spot and found her medicine in her bag. She understood that the treatments and medicine for cancer could cause some unwanted effects, so she decided to purchase painkillers and regular stomach medicine instead. It was a better option than having nothing at all. Looking at the pouring rain, she wondered, "Is that the only option I have left?" She really didn't want to meet that person, but she had to do it for her dad. Amelia went back to her house to tidy up before catching a taxi to Hawthorne Villa. When she came back to the countryside over a year ago, someone had called Amelia once. They hadn't seen each other for over 10 years, and Amelia had no clue about her well-being. Amelia thought she must be doing really good because of the big fancy house. A maid showed Amelia into the living room where a lovely lady was sitting after explaining why she was there. She looked just as pretty as Amelia remembered. "Liv," said the lady, and she gazed at Amelia with her beautiful eyes. But Amelia just couldn't bring herself to call her Mom. Chloe Parker had gone away when Amelia was 8 years old. It was Jeff's special day, and Amelia was really excited to go back home and have a big celebration with her family. She had no idea that her parents were going to get divorced. Amelia ran after her mom, quickly going down the stairs and tripping. She didn't even know she lost her shoes. She only wanted to hold on to her mom's legs and cry, "Mom, please don't leave." The kind lady leaned over, gently touched Amelia's face, and said, "I apologize. Mom, guess what? I'm the top student in my grade. Have you looked at my test papers yet? Don't forget to put your signature on them. Please stay with me, Mom. I will behave well. I won't go to any more fun fairs, I promise. I promise not to make you angry. I'll pay attention to what you have to say. Can you please?" In a rush, little Amelia cried and said everything she could think of to try and convince Chloe to stay. Finally, Chloe explained to Amelia that her marriage with Amelia's father wasn't a happy one, and that she had found her true happiness somewhere else. Afterwards, Amelia saw a stranger assist Chloe in putting her bags in a car. They held hands and left together. She ran after their car for a whole mile without wearing any shoes before falling hard onto the ground. She had boo-boos on her feet and knees, and they were bleeding while she looked at the car getting farther away. Back then, she didn't know what had happened. When she got older, she found out that her mom had cheated on her dad and then decided to get a divorce, leaving him with everything, including Amelia. Chloe and Amelia had never talked before, and Amelia really didn't like her at all. She really didn't want to see Chloe ever again. But things happened in a strange way, and Amelia couldn't do anything to change it. She suddenly felt very thirsty, and her feet felt heavy. Chloe understood what her daughter was thinking about. She went up to Amelia and gently guided her to take a seat next to her. I understand that you may not have positive feelings towards me. You were just a little kid at that time. Many things were more complicated than they appeared, so I couldn't explain them to you. She gently touched Amelia's cheeks and said, "Wow, you've grown so much. Hey, Liv, guess what? I'm here to stay for good now. Something has happened to the Rain family, I think. Don't worry. I'll make sure you're taken care of." That's when Amelia realized that the anger she felt towards her mom wasn't important. She called out, "Mom!" with a cracked voice. "Hey there! Since you're already here, why don't you stick around and have dinner? Chris has been really nice to me for a long time. He has a daughter who is 2 years older than you. She's bringing her future husband for dinner. I'll introduce you to her later." But Amelia didn't want to become a part of Chloe's new family. She quickly interrupted her. "Mom, I'm here this time for my dad. My family is in a tough situation right now. Unfortunately, my dad had a serious health issue, and we don't have enough money to cover his surgery." "Sure, I'd be happy to assist you. I promise I'll give the money back to you." Chloe hadn't answered yet when they heard a voice they recognized. "Miss Rain, it seems like you don't have much money, right? They even went all the way to my house to get it." It felt like a sudden, sharp hit on the face. Amelia glanced in surprise at the people by the door. It has to be Marina and Ethan, right? It seems like fate was playing tricks on her once more. She couldn't believe that her own mom would become Marina's stepmom. Marina now had Amelia's husband and mother as her family. And to make it even worse, those two had caught her in the act of asking her mother for money. Ethan saw that she was feeling uncomfortable, but he stayed relaxed and didn't show any concern for her. All of a sudden, a loud cry broke the uncomfortable silence. Amelia saw a lady pushing a stroller with 2 seats. As soon as the babies started crying, Ethan quickly picked up one of them and comforted them with his expertise. They created a beautiful image of a joyful family of 4. Amelia's kid would have been the same age if it was still here. She began to feel sorry for coming here. She felt really, really embarrassed and humiliated, like it was happening again and again. Oddly enough, one of the little ones couldn't seem to stop crying today. The maid hurried to get the milk ready, but the crying got even worse instead. Ethan kept comforting the baby with care. "Just remember to behave and try not to shed any tears." It was so nice to see a really tall man like him being so gentle with a little baby. It made my heart feel warm and happy when Amelia saw how kind and gentle he was. She had a sudden idea. With just a few steps, she went over to him and lifted the child. Somehow Ethan didn't manage to prevent her from doing it. Something really weird happened. The kid suddenly stopped crying and started smiling as soon as Amelia picked it up. The creature's mouth turned up into a happy smile, and its eyes sparkled as it gazed at her. The little one began giggling and murmuring, "Mommy." The little hands tried to reach up and grab the soft, round decoration on her hat. Ethan was not smiling at all, unlike the child who was beaming with joy. It felt as if something sharp had stabbed her heart, and it was the final thing that broke her, crushing any remaining strength she had. She used to believe that Ethan really liked her. He was nice to her when they first got married. She still remembered him saying, "Liv, let's have a baby." Why did she say no to him back then? Even though she hadn't finished her studies, she didn't hesitate to have a baby. It was only at this moment that she understood that while he was with her, he was also spending time with another woman whenever he traveled for work. Amelia felt really sick. She gave the baby back to Ethan and quickly went into the bathroom. After that, she closed and secured the door. She didn't eat a lot today. When she got sick, only a mix of her blood and the medicine she took came out. Her vision was filled with bright red liquid, and tears began streaming down her face. Oh no, things aren't going well, she thought. Her marriage had always been a big funny joke. Now everything had a clear explanation. Guess what? It was all part of the plan from the start. That's why he decided to rescue Marina instead of her when they both fell into the water that day. It also told the reason why he went with Marina when they both had their babies too early. The reason was that the kids in her belly belonged to him. After a while, Amelia heard someone knocking on the door. "Liv, are you okay?" It was Chloe, a young girl. Amelia tidied up the mess, washed her face with water, and walked out of the bathroom. Chloe didn't know what was happening between them. She asked Amelia, "Are you feeling unwell?" "I feel really grossed out when I see those two. I feel a lot better now that I've thrown up." "Have you heard of Marina?" "She has always been in other countries. Do you think there's a mix-up between you two?" "Hi, I'm Ethan." "I understand," Amelia interrupted her, speaking in a very unfriendly tone. "Ethan Miller, the leader of Miller Group. Everyone knows him, right?"
Sure.
"He's a really smart and successful young guy." "Yes, that's right. He hasn't even gotten a divorce yet, but he's already excited to get married again. Regular folks wouldn't be as brave as him." Chloe was really confused by this. "What are you saying? He's not married, so why would he want to end his relationship?" Amelia had a smile on her face, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. She asked, "If he isn't married, then who am I?" "Hey, Mr. Miller, can you please explain to my mom who I really am?" Chloe stared at Ethan, looking confused. She didn't realize that he was married. "Mr. Miller, we were in a different country for a long time and don't know what happens here. Why are you concerned about my involvement with your daughter?" Ethan's eyes were peaceful. He didn't seem to care as he said, "Even if there was something between us, it's already in the past. I'm going to finalize my divorce soon." Amelia was surprised by how casually he was taking things, especially considering how long they had been married. She had given him her heart, but this is all she received in the end. She was really, really mad at him, but she was really sad instead of feeling anything else. She felt really sad when she realized that she hadn't seen how bad he was and had treated him like he was really special. Amelia threw the small box with the ring in it towards Ethan's face. "That's not a nice thing to say. I am really sorry that I married you. Hey, I'll see you at the city hall tomorrow. Anyone who doesn't come is scared." The box smacked him right on his forehead, making blood trickle down his face. It popped open and dropped down with the ring onto the floor. Amelia didn't turn around this time. She walked on the circle as she left and closed the door loudly. A lot of stuff had happened in the last 2 years, and this was the last thing that made everything worse. She couldn't go very far before fainting on the side of the road. It began raining really hard, like the whole world didn't like her. Amelia thought it would be easier to end her life this way. She didn't find anything worth remembering in a world full of tricky plans and dishonesty like this. When she opened her eyes, she found herself in a room she didn't recognize. A bright, pale light from a lamp made the room less dark. The feeling here was like a gentle wind in the springtime. "You're up and ready to go." Amelia woke up and saw Keith looking at her. "You helped me?" "I found you unconscious on the side of the road while I was heading home, so I decided to bring you back with me. You were really wet, so I had the maid help you change," Keith said, with a sincere look in his eyes. "Thanks, Keith." Amelia expressed her gratitude. "I cooked some oatmeal. You should drink some warm water first," Keith advised her. Amelia took off the blankets and began to climb out of the bed. "We don't have to. It's getting late, and I don't want to bother you." She was very weak. As soon as she stood up, she lost her balance and fell down. Quickly, Keith hurried to help her by holding her up with his arms. Amelia noticed a nice smell coming from his clothes. It was just like the laundry soap she used at home. Ethan had the same smell before. It made her really sad when she thought about him. "You're not very strong at the moment." Keith gently warned her to take it easy if she wanted to live a little longer. "Imagine that you're doing this for your dad." Her eyes, which were sad and tired, suddenly showed a tiny bit of hope. "Sorry for bothering you." She saw Keith keeping himself busy in the kitchen. Actually, they weren't very good friends. He had given her a special prize when she was chosen as the top student in her first year. At that time, he was older than her by 4 years and was doing his internship at a fancy school somewhere else, so he didn't spend a lot of time in college. Afterwards, she saw him again at the hospital, and they began talking to each other more often. However, they weren't very close, so she couldn't always ask him for help. Once she was done eating and took her medicine, her tummy started to feel better. Keith mentioned her chemotherapy treatment. Nowadays, medicine is really advanced, and you're currently in the middle of the late stage of cancer. Even some people who were very sick managed to get better, so it's important to believe in yourself. Chemotherapy is a really good treatment. Amelia looked down. I have learned about medicine in the past. I understand both the advantages and disadvantages. Keith kept on offering her guidance. The chances of getting better after that are really good. Even if the side effects are really bad, you can still do it if you try hard enough. Amelia looked up at him, her eyes filled with tears. She was using all her energy to hold back her tears as she whispered with shaky lips, "But I can't do this anymore." Keith wanted to comfort her, but he couldn't find the right words to say. He looked at her tired eyes and felt a bit sad. After some time, he inquired, "Are there really no other people in this world that you care about anymore?" Surprised, Amelia needed a moment before answering. "The only person who matters to me is my dad. You should keep on living, even if it's just for him." Amelia smiled sadly. "Thank you. I feel a lot better now. I'm going to go now." That's when Keith noticed that the special ring she loved so much was gone. He began to talk, but then decided not to say anything. Finally, he inquired, "Where are you headed? I can take you there in my car." "No, thank you. I've asked for a taxi." "It's going to be here soon." She said no to his offer so quickly that he had no choice but to agree. However, he believed that he should continue to be worried. She looked really sad when they were talking earlier. He was really concerned that she might hurt herself, so he followed the taxi she got into. The taxi drove and stopped next to a river. Amelia was by herself and looked at the water. Even though the rain had stopped, it was still chilly outside. Keith wanted to prevent her from doing anything impulsive, but he noticed a black MPV pull up next to her. A car door swung open, and out stepped the person whose face is always seen in finance magazines. Keith was really surprised. Is that man Amelia's husband? The wind messed up Amelia's hair, showing how much pain she was in with her very pale face. Ethan instinctively wanted to lift his hand and gently move the strand of hair behind her ear, but then he took it back and said, "What is it?" Amelia looked at him, her eyes calm and uninterested. She seemed like she really wanted to make sure that the person standing in front of her was really him. "Did you cause my family to lose all our money?" she asked. She didn't waste any time, so he also got right to the point and said, "Yes." "Do you have kids?" This was her second question. She looked at him without blinking. Maybe she was thinking too much, but he never intended to refuse this. "Yes," he replied casually as always. Amelia went up to him and gave him a big smack on the face. "Ethan Miller, you meanie?" He quickly and gently took hold of her wrist and used his other hand to wipe away the tears on her cheeks. "Does it hurt?" he inquired. You meanie, why did you have to be so mean to me? Why is this happening to my family? Ethan's expression stayed calm and uninterested as he spoke. Why not go and talk to your dad about what he did? Amelia took a deep breath before she asked him, Did you ever like me, Ethan? His eyes were so deep and still, not a single movement could be seen. He said it very slowly, Never. From the start, you've always been just a pawn. She cried, and her tears dripped onto his hand. The wind blew, carrying away the last bit of warmth. Do you dislike me? Sure. This is what you owe me, Rains. It's your fault for being Jeff Rains' daughter. I will make sure you face consequences every day for what you did to my younger sister. Did your sister disappear a long time ago? Why is this relevant to my family? He stared at her with a mean look, like he was a boss making a decision. Did you know that my sister was being bullied while you were getting all the love and attention? Can you make a guess? I won't share the real facts with you. I hope you experience difficulties and have a very unhappy life without ever understanding what occurred. You'll experience what my sister went through. Ethan hopped into his car and said, I'll be waiting at the city hall at 9 tomorrow. Amelia quickly ran to the car and began hitting the car door. Can you please tell me what happened to your sister? But then the driver pressed really hard on the gas pedal, and the car raced away so fast that she couldn't keep her balance and ended up falling down.
Don't forget to like and done in the comment.